spoke to the great Senator Ted Cruz of Texas a little bit earlier today, about an hour or so ago. We talked about a whole bunch of issues, including the blue-collar boom in Bitcoin. Take a listen to what he had to say. So we welcome Senator Ted Cruz of Texas back to the show. Senator Cruz, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
Larry, always good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So let's have some fun, sir. Let's have some fun. The Dow Jones today is up 600, almost 600 points as of this taping. It's up 2,000 points since the election. People are calling it the Trump trade. Now, even more fun, I think, for you, Bitcoin is moving towards 100,000, okay? So it's at 98,000 and change today. It's up 30% since the election. There's a crypto boom. There's a Trump trade. There's the hope of a blue-collar growth boom. What do you make of this, Senator Cruz? Put your economic hat on, sir.
Well, it's a return to common sense, and I think it's the market betting on good policies that are going to be coming from a new administration and a Republican Congress. And if you look across the board for economic growth, the two biggest levers that government has for economic growth are tax reform and regulatory reform. We're going to see both. When it comes to tax reform, if, God forbid, Kamala Harris had won, we would have seen a massive tax increase on job creators, on working families, on the entire economy. Instead, what we're going to see is this Republican Congress working hand in hand with President Trump. We're going to extend the 2017 tax cuts. My hope is we're going to make them bigger and bolder. That is great for economic growth. Secondly, regulatory reform. We have an enormous burden on our economy from government regulations that destroy jobs, and we are seeing now, with leaders being appointed by the president with a commitment to pull the job-killing regulations back, I think we're going to see small businesses take off. And in particular, we are going to see an American energy renaissance. We are going to return to American energy dominance. The war on oil and gas that came from Joe Biden and the Democrats, that ends on January 20th. And I think you're seeing the market react to that in a powerful way.
So as I recall, and I know I'm old and infirm, but as I recall, you're a big crypto advocate.
Yes.
And I want to come
so.
back. I mean, this Bitcoin thing is unbelievable. As I say, I mean, the number, it's up $30,000 since $30,000 since the election, 43%. What do you make of that? What do you where do you think this is coming from?
Well, listen, I am one of the leading defenders of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in the United States Senate. I myself am a Bitcoin investor. Not only that, I'm a Bitcoin miner. I own 3 miners that are hashing right now. They're out in West Texas, and it is an incredible thing. Look, the single biggest threat to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency generally is the federal government, and in particular the federal government, radical leftists in government that hate Bitcoin and hate cryptocurrency. Elizabeth Warren hates Bitcoin, and a point I make frequently is that Elizabeth Warren hates Bitcoin for the same reason that communist China hates Bitcoin, because they cannot control it, because it is decentralized. That is the reason I love it. I want it out of government control. I don't want federal bureaucrats having control over it. And I think you're seeing people responding to what's going to be a favorable regulatory environment. I want Texas to be the oasis for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency generally. And we are seeing miners and innovators from all over the world coming to Texas to invest and create new jobs when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto.
Well, I would think it's a lot better than having the Federal Reserve. You know, they talk about these central bank digital currencies.
Yes.
So this is like Hayekian currency competition, which I think is probably going to be a great thing.
Amen. Hallelujah. I've introduced legislation to ban the Fed or the federal government from creating a central bank digital currency. I think a CBDC would be a disaster. And you're right that it is. Hayek, I'm sure, is smiling right now at the competition. And look, Bitcoin is often referred to as digital gold. One of the reasons people go to Bitcoin and crypto is that they don't have faith in politicians who spend like drunken sailors, who debase the currency. And so it's an inflation hedge, among other things. And I think you're seeing that's drawing a lot of people there. And it is, I think the future is very, very bright.
Can I just raise one point that's bothering me? The last couple of shows we've talked about it regarding the central bank, the Federal Reserve. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a poll that was taken, or I'm sorry, not a poll. Federal Election Commission, and actually Semaphore first put this out. It's a left of center site, as you probably know. But here's the thing. In the last two presidential cycles, 2020 and 2024, get this, 92% of the Federal Reserve Board donations to the campaigns went to Democrats. 92%
Wow.
of the Federal Reserve Board staff donations went to Democrats. This is new, Senator. This was not true in the early decades. This was not true during the Bush years. It wasn't even true during the Obama years. It kind of started in 2016, and then it explodes in 2020, and it keeps on exploding in 2024. Well, I mean, the Fed says it's independent, but if 92% are given to Democrats, how independent is the Fed? And might somebody want to look into that?
Yeah, look, that is certainly concerning. I hadn't seen that particular report. But, you know, I will say, you know, there are certainly Democrat governors, and that's not surprising that they're supporting Democrats. But particularly when Donald Trump came in, I think there were a lot of establishment Republicans who Trump scared the hell out of him. And Trump is a disruptor. You went and worked in the Trump White House, but coming out of the world of Wall Street, that took real courage, Larry, for you to do that. As you know, a lot of people, Trump scared the living daylights out of. And so I think that's one of the factors driving it. It will be interesting to see how much that changes during the second term, because I do think a lot of the things that seem revolutionary and even to some people scary in a first Trump term, after 4 years of Biden and Harris, people are ready to end the madness and get back to common sense. And I'm hopeful, you know, when you combine it with where we started this discussion, talking about efforts to rein in government regulations, to have more sensible taxes, I think people are going to see real economic benefits to job creation, real economic benefits to their family's bottom line, and that may change the overall assessment. We just saw an election on Election Day where Donald Trump won the popular vote by millions of votes. Of all 7 battleground states, he won all 7 decisively. We have a Republican House, we have a Republican Senate, 53 Republican senators. My race, as you know, I was running for re-election in Texas. I won by 9 points, by 1 million votes statewide. And one of the things I'm most proud of, I won in Texas the Hispanic vote statewide by 6 points. And we saw South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, which has been a bright blue bastion for 100 years, flip red. That is an historic and generational change. And I think it gives President Trump and the Republicans in the Senate and House a real mandate to deliver on our promises.
Okay, yeah. By the way, congrats on that election. Two things quickly, Senator. Two other things quickly. In view of this working class coalition, and I call it the potential blue collar boom, but things that you're talking about, you know, the Hispanic vote, the black vote, young people voting, middle income blue collars, wouldn't it be wise to take up the tax cuts and the tax reform right away, first on the agenda? It doesn't have to be the only thing, but you're going to slog through this. Wouldn't it be wise to go tax cuts first?
Look, I think it is going to be the central and biggest legislative priority next year. As you know, I am going to be the incoming chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over about 40% of the U.S. economy. If you care about jobs, there are very few positions in Washington with a greater impact on job creation. I can tell you last week, I already sat down with the new Republican Senate Majority Leader and with all of the incoming committee chairs, and our entire discussion was about moving forward quickly with the tax cut, using it to bring in regulatory reform at the same time, thinking big and bold to make a real difference. I think that is absolutely a priority, and I think we're going to hit the ground running.
All right, well, that's great. Last one. Deportation of criminals, deportation of possible terrorists and illegals and so forth. You've got all these liberal sanctuary cities, mayors and governors, and they're all standing up and they're going to fight Trump and defend illegal immigrants. Now, you tell me, you're a scholar. You're a legal scholar, constitutional scholar. I'm not. I didn't go to law school. I'm not a lawyer. But I thought federal law beats local law, point number one. And point number two, there are any number of statutes that will allow ICE to come in and identify these criminals and deport them. I mean, this is getting to be an out-of-hand discussion, but it seems to me the law, the federal law, overrides the local law.
Look, that's unquestionably right under the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution. Federal law preempts state law. But more fundamentally, look, what's happened to the Democrats in the past few years is they've gotten radical and extreme on the border. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we saw an open border, 12 million illegal immigrants invading this country, the worst illegal immigration in our nation's history. That is going to end, and it's going to end on January 20th. And we're going to secure the border. And it's not going to take a year. It's not going to take 6 months. I believe we will do it in January and February of next year. And you are right that you have blue state governors and mayors that they're acting like Bull Connor. They're just engaged in open defiance. They looked at Election Day and they didn't hear a word from the American people. They still embrace open borders, and they still don't care about releasing murderers and rapists and child molesters that jeopardize the safety of everyone's families. Now, the good news, as you said, is federal law enforcement has the authority to go in and arrest the criminals, even if Gavin Newsom decides that he wants to bear hug every murderer in California. That's not going to stop federal agents from arresting criminals and deporting criminals.
Don't you think I'm pretty good? I never went to law school. I'm not a lawyer. You know, my grasp of the Constitution.
You've got, you know, Larry, have you thought about becoming Attorney General?
I got to have to say, Senator Ted Cruz, thank you ever so much for coming back on the show, sir. And congratulations on your big win in Texas. Thanks,
Appreciate it.